To speak to you here on the broadcast. We now turn over to further updates coming out of Europe, where the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has said that Europe is already being affected by war in the Middle East. Rising energy prices, trade disruptions and the displacement of people are being reported across the continent. Oil prices were pushed close to a $120 a barrel on Monday, as the US-Israeli conflict with Iran continued into its second week. Fresh retaliatory strikes were launched by Tehran in the Gulf, including an Iranian-made drone that targeted a British base in Cyprus. Von der Leyen warned that long-term challenges to global stability and Europe's security are being posed by the conflict. She has already stressed that freedom and dignity must be granted to the people of Iran, and Brussels' commitment to Ukraine was reaffirmed despite obstacles in approving a €90 billion loan. Let's take a listen into her statement.
We can now see a regional conflict with unintended consequences. And the spillover is already a reality today, whether on energy or finance, trade or transport, or the displacement of people.
Alison joins us once again on this. Alison, we've now seen oil prices surge up 25%, $120 per barrel. What is going to be the economic implications for Europe here? Even given the conflict is so far away, it still has a direct and almost immediate effect.
Well, yes, it does. Petrol or gasoline prices have gone up all around the continent, including where I live in Romania. They've gone up by more than 20%. Gold, that's gone down in value. I think cooking oils are going up, will go up in value, edible oils, as will cereals. I think stock exchanges have been hit, as Ursula von der Leyen, the EU chief, said. You know, that there may be displacement of people from Iran seeking refuge, migrants in Europe, because although it's a long way from Iran, you can get from Iran to Europe without having to cross the sea, and Europe is seen as a prosperous and safe place. So yes, Europe is being hit again economically, first of all, and this will cause, the price in the pumps will push up inflation in all these countries and all the countries in Europe. And so that affects everyone. And, the price of food, et cetera, et cetera. And also, I think Europe, maybe not just yet, will also fear another refugee or fear another migrant crisis. Perhaps not quite like the one in 2015, but it is a possibility. I've seen reports so far. Okay, we're only 1 week into the conflict, but it is possible that people will flee the region and come to Europe as they normally do. People normally move westwards, not eastwards. So yes, Europe is affected by it economically, politically. They're struggling to find a response. There's obviously some sort of support for Israel and the United States, but Europe is not joining the war, but it is providing, the UK has provided places where US planes can take off from. So Europe is joining it, but very sort of quietly and discreetly. It doesn't want to be drawn into the crosshairs.
Yeah, and what have you made of Europe's broader response to this conflict, as you've just briefly mentioned there? Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I think at the beginning Europe was really left out of the picture. Obviously, this was a war of stealth, of deception, and only Trump's inner circle and the Israeli inner circle, they did actually they told as few people as possible. So I think Chancellor Merz, the German Chancellor, said he had 4 minutes warning. So Europe was really left out of it, and then they were sort of struggling to find a response like this violates international law. But on the other hand, nobody in Europe likes the regime in Iran, and America is a big ally of Europe, despite the tensions we've had in the last year or so since Donald Trump has come back to power. The US is a major member of NATO, and I think Europe understands that it has to support the US and Israel in this. But on the other hand, it doesn't want to be seen to get too actively involved. They will provide perhaps some, help for the United States. But they're not going to send. I don't think the Europe will send any. Well, they won't send any of their own missiles, or fighter jets or whatever into the fray. But they have already had to send. I think Germany, France, Britain's been rather slow. Have had to send ships down to Cyprus, which has a British base there. So that is defensive action. I mean, here in Romania we have a defensive shield, which is to prevent Iranian missiles entering Europe. So I think Europe will help Israel and particularly United States in terms of logistics and defensive capabilities, not taking part in the strikes for sure. And I think you can see that Europe in the last week has kind of come round to that point of view generally, that they are supporting the United States, but they're not going to say it in a very outright way.
Yeah, we'll certainly be keeping tabs on that. Alison, thank you so much for taking the time. Great pleasure to talk to you as always here on the broadcast. We now move on and